Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to HK Cheating Stories. We appreciate each and every one of you joining us. Where in the world are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's get the story started. My name is Arthur Ryan, and for 16 years, I lived a lie. I built a life, a family, a future, only to discover it was all a carefully crafted illusion. My wife, the woman I trusted most, betrayed me in ways I never imagined. But the worst part? She didn't just cheat on me. She planned to get rid of me. I found out too late, just in time to save my life, but not in time to stop the damage. So, I did the only thing I could. I disappeared. But the past has a way of finding you. And after 7 years, it came knocking. The morning I left town, the sky was painted in shades of burnt orange and crimson. The crisp autumn air carried the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves, but all I could smell was the stench of betrayal. My hands gripped the steering wheel of my old pickup truck, knuckles white from the force. The engine rumbled beneath me, a steady reminder that there was no turning back. Everything I needed was packed in the back: clothes, a few tools, important documents, and just enough cash to start over. I didn't take much. The rest, I left behind for the vultures to fight over. Willa, my wife, the woman I had spent 16 years building a life with, had betrayed me in the worst way imaginable. It wasn't just the cheating. I could have stomached that, maybe. But she had lied, again and again, and I had believed her. Our youngest child, the boy I raised as my own, wasn't even mine. He was my brother-in-law's son. And that wasn't the worst part. A few weeks before I left, I uncovered something that chilled me to the bone. A life insurance policy. Not just any policy. A $4 million double indemnity plan. If I died in an accident, Willa would walk away a millionaire. She and her sister, Tammy, had been planning something. I could feel it in my bones. I might have been a fool for loving Willa, but I wasn't stupid. I packed my bags in silence, moved my money where they couldn't reach it, and made sure that when I left for good. I kept my foot on the gas for hours, watching the town I had once called home shrink in my rearview mirror. The farther I drove, the lighter my chest felt, but the rage sat heavy in my stomach like a stone. The lies, the deception, the sheer audacity of it all, it was enough to make my blood boil. I thought back to the night I confronted Willa. She had laughed. "Oh, come on, Art," she had said, rolling her eyes. "You're really going to throw a tantrum over some old fling? You'll cool off and come back. You always do." That was the moment I knew. She never loved me. She loved what I could provide. She saw me as a workhorse, a money machine. And the best part? She had convinced everyone else that I was the villain. Even my daughters. They thought I had abandoned them. They didn't know the truth. And at the time, I hadn't had the strength to tell them. That night, as I drove away, I made a promise to myself. I would never let them make a fool out of me again. By the time I crossed state lines, the weight of exhaustion settled deep in my bones. I hadn't slept in nearly 2 days, but stopping felt dangerous. I needed to find a place where no one would think to look for me. Somewhere small, forgotten. A town where I could disappear. That's when I found it. A sleepy little town, the kind of place where everyone knew each other's names. There was a diner on the corner, a single grocery store, and a rundown gas station with a for sale sign hanging crookedly in the window. It was perfect. I pulled into the gas station and shut off the engine. The silence was unnerving at first. Too still, too quiet. But maybe that's what I needed. A place where no one whispered behind my back, where no one looked at me with pity or suspicion. By the end of the week, I had bought the gas station and the attached garage. It was barely standing, the roof sagging, the pumps outdated, but I saw potential. A little hard work, some money, and I could turn this place into something worthwhile. And more importantly, I could finally be free. I spent the first few months keeping to myself, keeping my head down. I fixed up the place, made connections with the locals, and built something new. Something that was mine, that no one could take from me. The anger never left, but I buried it deep, beneath the long hours and the scent of oil and gasoline. At night, though, when the world was quiet and the neon lights flickered outside my window, I thought about them. About Willa. About Tammy. About the son that wasn't mine. And I wondered how long it would take before they came looking for me. Because people like them, they never let go. And I knew, one day, my past would come knocking. I just had to be ready. The first few months in my new town felt like walking through a fog. Unfamiliar, unsettling, but oddly comforting in its silence. No one knew me here. No whispers behind my back. No pitying glances. Just another man trying to make a living. The gas station was a wreck when I bought it. The pumps were outdated, the convenience store was practically a storage closet, and the garage hadn't been used in years. But I saw what it could be. A fresh start. A place where I controlled my own fate, where no one could pull the rug out from under me again. I worked from dawn until well past midnight, fixing, cleaning, rebuilding. The smell of oil and gasoline clung to my skin, a reminder that this was real, that this was mine. The locals were hesitant at first. They had seen too many outsiders come and go, never bothering to stick around. But I wasn't looking for a temporary stop. I was here to stay. The first to give me a chance was an old man named Frank, the owner of the only hardware store in town. "You fixing up that old wreck?" he asked one afternoon, watching as I hauled a busted pump out of the ground. "Trying to," I grunted, wiping sweat from my brow. He nodded, taking a slow sip of his coffee. "Good. We could use a real station." Last guy ran it into the ground. That was the first real conversation I had in town, and from that moment, word spread. The new guy wasn't just passing through. It took 6 months before the gas station looked like something worth stopping for. I upgraded the pumps, expanded the convenience store, and opened the garage for repairs. But the biggest change came when I decided to build a small retail shop next to the gas station. The only grocery store in town closed at 7 p.m., leaving people with nowhere to go if they needed something late at night. I saw an opportunity and took it. The shop was small, but it was stocked with everything people needed: basic groceries, household supplies, even a liquor section that ruffled a few feathers at first. But business was business, and by the time the first month ended, the store was turning a solid profit. That's when I hired Lisa. She was sharp, good with numbers, and had a way of organizing things that I never could. Within weeks, sales doubled, and I found myself stepping back, letting her handle the day-to-day. She had a past, like everyone in this town, but she didn't ask questions about mine, and I didn't ask about hers. That was the unspoken rule here. Everyone had their reasons for being in a town like this. No one pried. The bar down the street became my one indulgence. Every Saturday night, after a long week of work, I'd sit in my usual corner, nursing a double shot of Jack Daniels. It was my one moment of peace. No responsibilities, no past, just the slow burn of whiskey and the distant hum of conversation. I never stayed late. I never got drunk. I just sat, watched, listened. It was on one of those nights that my past came creeping back. I had just finished replacing the steering column in an old Chevy. One of those jobs that took forever because the part was damn near impossible to find. I walked into the bar, same as always, ordered my drink, and settled in. That's when I saw them. A woman and a young man. At first, they were just another pair of strangers. But then she turned, and my stomach dropped. Tammy, Willa's twin sister, and the boy beside her, the one I had once called my son. They didn't see me. Not yet. But I watched as they leaned against the bar, chatting with the bartender. Tammy slid a picture across the counter. My picture. The bartender, Tom, glanced at it, then shook his head. He didn't give me away. They lingered for a moment, scanning the room. I kept my head down, my long hair and beard working in my favor. After a few minutes, they left, walking out into the cold night. Tom made his way over to me, wiping his hands on a rag. "They were looking for you," he said quietly. I took a slow sip of my drink, my mind racing. What did they want? Tom hesitated. Said Willow is dying. Cancer. Wants to see you. I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. And you believe that? Tom sat down across from me, lowering his voice. No, and neither do you. He was right. I had lived with these people for 16 years. I knew them. Willow wasn't dying. This was something else. Something worse. And for the first time in 7 years, I knew. They weren't done with me yet. I sat there, staring into my glass, the ice melting into watered-down whiskey. The weight of the past 7 years crashed over me in waves. Tammy, the boy, my ex-wife's bloodline walking into my sanctuary, looking for me. Tom leaned in, voice low. What do you want to do? I exhaled slowly, swirling the liquid in my glass. Nothing. For now. I needed time to think. That night, I took the long way home. My truck's tires hummed against the empty road, the headlights cutting through the darkness. The cold air seeped through the cracks in the windows, but I didn't roll them up. I needed the bite of reality to keep me sharp. Why now? Why were they looking for me after all these years? The last time I saw Tammy was the night I left. She had been standing in the doorway of my house, smirking, watching the wreckage unfold. And the boy I had raised as my own. He had been a child then. Now he was a man, and he was searching for me. The lie about Willa dying was just bait. I knew it in my gut. I had spent 16 years married to that woman. I knew every trick in her book. The question wasn't whether she was sick. The question was, what did she want? The next morning, I walked into the gas station like nothing had changed. Lisa was already inside, balancing the books. She barely looked up as I poured myself a cup of coffee. "You look like hell," she muttered. "Thanks. Rough night." Something like that. Lisa had been around long enough to know when to press and when to let things be. She let this one be. I checked the security cameras. The shop had been quiet overnight, no unexpected visitors. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. And I was right. It was just afternoon when I saw it. A car, unfamiliar, rolling slowly past the gas station. The kind of slow that wasn't natural. The kind of slow that meant someone was looking for something. Or someone. I stepped out onto the lot, wiping my hands on a rag, watching as the car made another pass. The driver's window rolled down just enough for me to see a pair of eyes. Tammy. She didn't stop, didn't wave. She just watched. Then, she was gone. Lisa stepped out behind me, arms crossed. "Friends of yours?" she asked. Something like that. She didn't push for more. But I could feel it now. The past wasn't knocking at my door anymore. It was prying open the lock. That night, I kept my gun on the nightstand. I hadn't needed it in years. But as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I felt the old instincts creeping back. The ones that had kept me alive when I first left. The ones that told me to be careful, to watch my back, to expect the worst. Because Willa and Tammy? They weren't just looking for closure. They were looking for something else. And I had a feeling I wasn't going to like what it was. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces, Tammy watching me from that car, the boy I had once called my son standing beside her. It was like the past had ripped itself out of the grave, crawling back with unfinished business. By the time dawn broke, I had already made up my mind. It was time to stop wondering. Time to stop waiting for the past to find me. I was going to face it head on. I dug through the old lockbox in my closet. Inside were the documents I had carried with me when I left. Proof of everything that had led to my escape. The DNA test. The hotel receipts. The pictures. The evidence of my wife's affair wasn't just circumstantial. It was black and white, undeniable. And it hadn't been some one-time mistake. It had been a year-long betrayal, hidden behind soft smiles and empty promises. I remembered the moment I first saw the results. I had been standing in my lawyer's office, hands shaking, stomach twisted into knots. "I don't know how to tell you this," he had said, sliding the envelope across the desk. "But it's not good." I had ripped it open, eyes scanning the paper, looking for something, anything, that would prove him wrong. But there it was, plain as day. My youngest son wasn't mine. The affair hadn't been a rumor. It hadn't been a misunderstanding. It had been real. And I had been the last to know. That alone would have been enough to destroy me. But then came the life insurance policy. A new policy, signed 6 months before I left. For $1 million. Double indemnity. If I died in an accident, Willa would collect every penny. And suddenly, the late-night arguments made sense. The way she had been pushing me to go on that fishing trip alone. The way she insisted I take the backroads home after work. She hadn't just been cheating on me. She had been planning to get rid of me. I had left without a word. I didn't give her the chance to explain, to lie, to manipulate. By the time she realized I was gone, the divorce papers had already been served. The accounts had been emptied. The assets had been split. I had walked away with half, and she had been left with nothing but a sinking ship. But now, after 7 years of silence, they were looking for me. And I needed to know why. I took a deep breath, grabbed my phone, and called the only person who might have answers. My lawyer's old office. The receptionist answered, her voice polite but distant. "Law offices of Henry Jacobs. How may I assist you?" "This is Arthur Rhine. I need to speak with Mr. Jacobs." Silence. Then, a hesitant reply. "I'm sorry, Mr. Rhine, but Mr. Jacobs passed away 6 years ago." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "How?" I asked, already fearing the answer. "Car accident. Late at night. Lost control. Hit a tree at 70 miles per hour." My grip tightened around the phone. Another accident. Another convenient death. Willa's lawyer, The man who handled our divorce, the man who had locked down my assets before she could touch them, was gone. And just like that, I knew. They weren't looking for me to make peace. They were looking for me to finish what they started. I hung up the phone and sat there, heart pounding. This wasn't just about old grudges. This was about money. Somewhere, in the tangled mess of my past, was a trail of stolen cash, missing assets, and dirty secrets. Willa and Tammy weren't done with me because I was the last loose end. And if they had killed before, they wouldn't hesitate to try again. I stood up, walked over to the dresser, and opened the bottom drawer. My gun was still there, untouched for years. I picked it up, checked the magazine, and slid it into my waistband. If they wanted a war, they had just found one. The weight of the gun at my waist was both familiar and foreign. It had been years since I carried one, but now, it felt necessary. They weren't done with me. I could feel it in my bones. And I was done waiting. I kept my routine the same, showed up at the gas station, checked the inventory, did the repairs that needed doing, but I was more aware. Every car that pulled up, every face that walked through the door, I watched. I was expecting trouble, and it arrived sooner than I thought. Late that afternoon, as I was closing up the garage, a car pulled in. Not just any car. A black sedan with tinted windows, the kind of car people in my old life used when they wanted to send a message. The driver's side door opened, and a man stepped out. Young, mid-30s, clean-cut, expensive suit. But his eyes gave him away, cop eyes. He wasn't here for gas. He was here for me. "Arthur Rhine?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I wiped my hands on a rag, took my time, and looked him over. "Who's asking?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a badge. "Peter Edwards. I'm a detective, and your oldest daughter's husband." That stopped me cold. "Connie." I hadn't heard her name in years. "She married a cop?" I muttered. "Surprised?" he asked. I let out a dry chuckle. "Yeah, but I guess it makes sense. Willa always hated the law. If there was one way for Connie to rebel, that'd be it." Peter didn't smile. He just watched me, like he was trying to decide if I was the man Connie thought I was. "I came here because we need to talk," he said. "Your ex-wife never finalized the divorce." I felt my jaw tighten. "What?" "She told everyone you ran off, emptied the accounts, left her and the kids with nothing," he continued. "She played the victim. And when you disappeared, it only made her story stronger." I let out a slow breath. "That's a lie." Peter nodded. "I know." We sat outside the garage, 2 chairs, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the pavement. Peter pulled out a folder, opened it, and handed me a document. It was my original divorce petition. My lawyer had served it the day I left. But there was one problem. Willa never signed it. Legally, we were still married. "She did that on purpose," I muttered. Peter nodded. "She had plans for you. But when you vanished, she had to adjust. She remarried, but under common law. She's been living with her former lawyer, the guy who handled her finances." I frowned. "Wait, the same guy who tried to fight my attorney in court?" "Yeah," Peter said. "And here's where it gets interesting. Your kids never got a dime of the child support you set up." I felt my stomach twist. "What?" "You set up annuities, $600 a month for each of your daughters. But Willa stole it. Tammy helped. They took every cent and spent it on themselves." I clenched my fists. Those annuities had been for my kids. I had left thinking they'd be taken care of, that even if Willa tried to turn them against me, at least they'd have something. But they had gotten nothing. All because of her. "That's why I'm here," Peter continued. "Willa needs you to sign the divorce now. She wants to remarry legally. But before she does, she's making one last move. She's suing you for desertion and back child support." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insane. She stole their money, lied about the divorce, and now she's suing me? Peter leaned forward. "She's banking on the fact that you won't fight it, that you'll want to stay hidden." I shook my head. "She doesn't know me anymore." Peter smirked. "That's what I told Connie." We sat in silence for a moment. Then I asked the question that had been burning in my mind since the moment he introduced himself. "Why are you really here, Peter?" He hesitated. Then, he pulled out one last document. A death certificate. My old lawyer's. "Car accident. High-speed collision," Peter said. "Tammy's ex-husband was seen near the scene before it happened." Everything clicked. The missing money. The lawsuit. The sudden interest in finding me. "They're tying up loose ends," I muttered. Peter nodded. "And you're the last one left." I exhaled slowly. For 7 years, I had built this new life. A quiet life. a safe life. And now, it was over. Because Willa and Tammy weren't just trying to screw me over financially. They were trying to erase me completely. And that meant one thing. It was time to stop running. It was time to fight back. Peter left just before sunset. He gave me his number, told me to call if I noticed anything unusual. But we both knew it wasn't a matter of if. It was a matter of when. I locked up the gas station, double-checking the security cameras. The past few days had left me on edge, but now, I knew what was coming. Willa and Tammy weren't just trying to take me for every dime they could get. They were trying to erase me. And I wasn't about to let that happen. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I stopped by the bar. Not for a drink. Tonight, I needed information. Tom was behind the counter, wiping down a glass when he saw me walk in. Twice in 1 week? Something's up, he muttered, setting the glass down. You could say that. I leaned against the bar. I need to know if anyone's been asking about me. Someone besides Tammy. Tom narrowed his eyes, thinking. Come to think of it, yeah. He set both hands on the counter, lowering his voice. Guy came in last night. Didn't order a drink. Just sat at a table, watching. Military type. Didn't talk much. Left after an hour. I felt my gut tighten. Describe him. Tom scratched his chin. Tall. Crew cut. Built like a damn linebacker. Looked like the kind of guy who could snap someone's neck without breaking a sweat. That sounded about right. Jod's ex-husband, Brad. And if Brad was here, that meant only one thing. They were making their move. I didn't drive straight home. I took back roads, circled the block a few times, checked my mirrors constantly. I wasn't about to lead them to my doorstep. But when I finally pulled up to my house, I knew someone had been there. The porch light was off. I always left it on. I parked a few houses down, cut the engine, and sat in the darkness for a moment, listening, watching. Then I moved. Gun drawn. I crept toward the house, boots silent on the gravel. The front door was locked, nothing broken, but when I stepped inside, I noticed something off. The air smelled different. Like cigarette smoke. I didn't smoke. Whoever had been here had been waiting. I checked every room, every closet. Nothing was missing, but I could feel it. Someone had sat in my chair. Someone had stood by my bedroom door. Someone had been inside my house, watching, waiting, and then left. A warning. They wanted me to know they could get to me. I locked the door behind me, shut the curtains, and pulled out my phone. It rang twice before Peter picked up. It's me, I said. Brad's in town, and someone was in my house. Silence. Then, did they take anything? No, but they wanted me to know they were there. Peter let out a slow breath. That means they're testing you, seeing how you'll react. If you panic, if you run. I shook my head. I'm done running. The next morning, I went back to work like nothing had happened. Lisa was already there, stocking shelves. She glanced up when I walked in, eyes narrowing. You look like hell. Appreciate it. Something happened? Nothing I can't handle. Lisa stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. If you say so. But I could tell she didn't believe me. And maybe she shouldn't. Because I wasn't just handling this. I was preparing for war. Around noon, Peter pulled into the lot. He wasn't alone. A second car followed him, an unmarked police vehicle. I stepped outside as they both got out. Peter introduced the other man, an older detective named Russell, who had been working financial crimes in the county for over a decade. We went back through Willa's records, Russell said, and we found something interesting. He handed me a folder. Inside were bank statements, insurance forms, and a new life insurance policy on me. I gritted my teeth. You're telling me they did it again? 6 months ago, Russell confirmed. Through a different company. Same terms. Same payout. Double indemnity. If you die in an accident, Willa collects. I clenched my fists. They had been planning this for months. Waiting for me to come out of hiding. Peter crossed his arms. This isn't just about money anymore, he said. They're going to try and take you out. And we're going to stop them. That night, I sat on my porch, gun in my lap, waiting. I wasn't going to let them blindside me. If they wanted me dead, they'd have to come and try. And when they did, I'd be ready. I sat on my porch, gun resting in my lap, listening to the silence. It wasn't peaceful, not tonight. It was the kind of silence that came before a storm, thick and heavy in the air. The kind of silence that meant something was coming. And I was ready. For the first time in 7 years, I wasn't running. I was waiting. The first sign came at 11:13 p.m. A car rolling down the street, headlights off. Not a neighbor. Not someone lost. No, this was deliberate. I stayed in my chair, barely moving, watching through the reflection in the window. The The car slowed as it passed my house, then disappeared down the road. A scout. They wanted to see if I was home. I took a slow breath, gripping my gun. They weren't going to wait much longer. At 11:52 p.m., it happened. A faint click at the front door. Then, the handle twisted, once, twice, before stopping. I tightened my grip on the gun, staying still. Whoever it was had picked the lock. The door creaked open, slow and careful. Then I heard the soft shuffle of footsteps against the wooden floor. Someone was inside. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I waited. Then, just as the intruder took another step forward, I cocked the hammer. The sound was deafening in the silence. The footsteps froze. "Drop it," I said, my voice low, controlled. No movement. I said, "Drop it." A slow exhale. Then, a metallic clink as a gun hit the floor. I flipped on the lamp beside me, my eyes locking onto the man standing just a few feet away. Brad. He was exactly what Tom had described. Tall, broad-shouldered, military stance. But now, standing under the dim light of my living room, he didn't look so sure of himself. "Well," I said, keeping my gun leveled. "You finally found me." Brad's jaw tensed. "They said you'd be asleep." I let out a short laugh. They were wrong. His eyes flickered to the gun in my hand. "You gonna kill me? Should I?" Silence. I could see it, the gears turning in his head. He had expected this to be easy. A quick job, in and out. But now, standing here, staring down the barrel of my gun, he was realizing the truth. He had been set up. "How much?" I asked. Brad frowned. "What? How much did they promise you?" He hesitated. "750,000, he finally muttered. I shook my head, chuckling bitterly. "They lied to you, Brad." He frowned. "What are you talking about? The policy isn't for $750,000. It's for $4 million. Double indemnity. If I die in an accident, Willa and Tammy get everything." His face drained of color. I kept going. "You were never getting a cut. You were the disposable pawn. Do the job, disappear, and if anyone asks questions, Willa and Tammy would swear they had no idea who you were." Brad's breathing turned shallow. "They know. They wouldn't." "Think about it," I interrupted. "You're the perfect fall guy. A dishonorably discharged ex-soldier with a record. A man with a history of violence. Who do you think the cops would believe?" Realization hit him like a freight train. He staggered back, shaking his head. "They set me up." "Yeah," I said. "And you were dumb enough to fall for it." He stood there, processing everything, his fists clenched. Then, slowly, he looked at me. "What do I do?" he asked. I tilted my head. "That depends. You want revenge." Brad's jaw tightened. "I want them to pay." "Then call the cops," I said. "Confess. Give them everything." He hesitated. I leaned forward, voice calm but firm. "It's either that or they kill you next. Because now you know the truth. And if you don't act first, they'll make sure you never talk." A long pause. Then, Brad exhaled and pulled out his phone. The next 2 hours were a blur. By the time Peter and his team arrived, Brad had already spilled everything. How Tammy had reached out to him. How Willa had given him a key to my house. How they had planned to make my death look like a robbery gone wrong. And just like that, the house of lies came crashing down. Peter placed Brad in cuffs, but as they led him away, he looked at me one last time. "I should have known," he muttered. "Yeah," I said. "You should have." Then he was gone, and I was still standing. As the night stretched into morning, I sat back down on my porch, gun still resting in my lap. I had won this battle. But the war? The war wasn't over yet. The sun was just beginning to rise when the last of the cops cleared out. The smell of cold coffee lingered in the air, mixing with the fading scent of gun oil and cigarette smoke. I had spent the night sitting on my porch, watching, waiting, thinking. Brad was in custody. He had flipped faster than I expected, giving up everything. The planned hit, the stolen child support money, the fake life insurance claims. And now, Willa and Tammy were out of time. At 9:30 a.m., Peter called. "We got them." 2 simple words, but they carried 7 years' worth of weight off my shoulders. "How?" I asked, rubbing my eyes. Brad's testimony was enough to bring them in. But when we searched Tammy's house, we found the insurance paperwork. We found the fake bank accounts. We even found files from your old lawyer's office, the ones that mysteriously disappeared after his accident. I let out a slow breath. "So what now?" "Now? They're looking at 10 to 15 years minimum. Maybe more if the DA can tie them to your lawyer's death." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. It was over. For real this time. I should have felt relief. But as I stood in the doorway of my house, staring out at the empty street, all I felt was tired. 7 years. 7 years of running, of hiding, of waiting for the past to catch up with me. Now that it finally had, I didn't know what to do with myself. And then my phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen. Connie. For a moment, I just stared at the name, unsure if I should answer. Then, slowly, I pressed the button and brought the phone to my ear. Dad. Her voice was small, hesitant. Yeah, kiddo. I'm here. A pause. Then, can we see you? That afternoon, I drove out to a small diner just outside town. A place where no one knew me, where no one would recognize my name. Peter was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner booth with 2 young women. I froze in the doorway. My daughters, Connie and Karen. They looked so much older than the last time I had seen them. Connie was a woman now, her hair tied back in a ponytail, a silver wedding ring on her finger. Karen was still just a kid the last time I saw her. Now, she was in her 20s, grown. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something crack inside me. I took a slow breath, squared my shoulders, and walked toward them. No one spoke at first. We just sat there, staring at each other across the table, the silence thick and heavy. Then, finally, Connie cleared her throat. I thought you left because you didn't love us, she said quietly. I flinched like I had been hit. I never stopped loving you, I said. Not for a second. Karen looked at me, eyes glistening. Mom lied to us. Yeah, I said softly. She did. Another silence. Then, slowly, Connie reached into her bag and pulled out a stack of papers. This is all the money Mom stole from us, she said. Peter helped us track it down. Every cent. She told us you abandoned us. But the truth is, you were trying to take care of us the whole time. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I tried, I said. I really did. Connie's hands tightened around the papers. We want to make things right, she said. We want you back in our lives. Karen nodded. It's time, Dad. And just like that, all the years of anger, of guilt, of regret, they melted away. A week later, I stood at the courthouse as the judge finalized my divorce. It was over. I was finally free. I walked out of the building, took a deep breath, and let it all go. The past, the pain, the betrayal. And for the first time in 7 years, I felt alive again. That evening, I drove back to town. I pulled up to the house where I had been rebuilding my life, our life, and saw her standing on the porch, waiting. Jod, the woman who had been by my side through all of it. She folded her arms, watching me as I climbed out of the truck. You really did it, huh? She asked. Yeah, I said. It's done. She tilted her head, studying me. And now, I took a deep breath. Then I reached into my pocket, pulled out a small velvet box, and opened it. Jod's eyes widened. What are you doing? She whispered. I dropped to one knee, looking up at the woman who had saved me in ways she didn't even know. I'm asking you to marry me. For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then, she let out a shaky breath, her eyes filling with tears. Took you long enough, she muttered. Then she grabbed my face, kissed me hard, and whispered, yes. A month later, we were married in the backyard of my parents' house, surrounded by family. Karen was Jod's maid of honor. Connie walked me down the aisle. Peter stood beside me as my best man. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't alone. I had a family again. And as I stood there, looking at the people I loved, I realized something. I had spent years trying to escape the past. But the truth was, I didn't need to run anymore. I had already won. Looking back, I see the truth for what it is. Life isn't about avoiding pain, it's about surviving it. It's about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. I spent years running, thinking distance could erase the past. But no matter how far I went, it was always there, waiting. The only way to truly move on was to face it head on. Betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't define you. What defines you is what you do next. Do you let bitterness consume you? Or do you rebuild, piece by piece, until you create something stronger than what was taken from you? For those who have been wronged, let me tell you this. Forgiveness is not for them. It's for you. Not everyone deserves it, but you do. You deserve peace. You deserve to live without the weight of someone else's lies on your shoulders. And for those who have lost time, it's never too late to get it back. I thought I had lost my daughters forever. I thought I had lost my chance at love. But life has a way of surprising you, even when you least expect it. So if you're holding on to anger, let it go. If you have a chance to make things right, take it. And if life knocks you down, stand up. Keep moving forward. Because the past may shape you, but it doesn't have to control you.